The forest stretched for miles, broken only by winding rivers and the occasional abandoned farmhouse. When search crews finally spotted the German shepherd staggering along a dirt road, its muzzle was bloodied, paws torn raw from stone and frost. Draped across its back was a half-conscious woman, her face pale, eyes flickering open only long enough to whisper something no one could understand. 47 miles, through storm, night, and hunger, this dog had carried her. But what he led them to after saving her life was far darker than anyone was ready to face. Rain swept in waves across the back roads of Ash Hollow, a place where map lines blurred into timberland and silence. Sheriff Grant Ellery knew these roads better than most. 30 years patrolling the county had burned their switchbacks and potholes into his bones, but nothing in his long service explained what he was seeing now. Headlights struck the figure stumbling out of the tree line. A dog, German shepherd, ribs showing, limping hard on one leg. Its fur was caked with mud, streaked with blood not its own. Slung over its back, barely clinging to life, was a woman. Ellery braked so fast the cruiser fishtailed. Jesus Christ. The woman's face was ghost pale, lips cracked, eyes fluttering. She was whispering something against the dog's neck, words drowned by the rain. The animal growled low, not at him, but as if bracing itself, like a soldier unwilling to collapse until its charge was safe. Ellery called it in with a voice that shook despite him. Dispatch! This is Unit 1. I don't even know how to say it. Injured female. Location, mile marker 32, Route Hollow Bend. She's being carried by a dog. Repeat, carried. There was silence on the line. Then, copy medical en route. The dog lowered itself carefully, refusing to move until the woman was eased into Ellery's arms. Its chest heaved, eyes bloodshot, but it didn't stop watching her. Stay with me, Ellery murmured. He pressed 2 fingers to her throat. Weak pulse. What happened to you? Her lips trembled. 47 miles, she breathed, voice raw. He wouldn't stop. Then her eyes rolled back, and she went limp. The hospital. An hour later. Storm water still dripping from his coat. Ellery stood outside the emergency room. The shepherd paced in circles, whining when orderlies tried to keep it from the doors. No collar. No tags. Just scars across its flanks. Old and new. Dr. Kara Hensley emerged, surgical mask dangling at her throat. She was tough, mid-40s, the kind of doctor who kept her hair pulled tight and her emotions tighter. Tonight, though, her face was pale. She's alive, Kara said. Dehydrated, hypothermic, broken ribs, puncture wound to the shoulder. Whoever she is, she shouldn't be alive at all. If that dog hadn't gotten her here. Ellery rubbed a hand over his face. Name. She had no ID, but she came in whispering one word, over and over. Kara hesitated, as though speaking it might invite something unwelcome. Redwood. Ellery frowned. Redwood? The old lumber camp. That's the one. Something turned in his gut. Redwood had been abandoned 20 years. Left to rot after a fire took most of the camp. Folks said squatters sometimes drifted through. Meth cooks. Strays. The county avoided it. Too much trouble for too little reason. Grant. Kara lowered her voice. Whatever happened out there, I don't think it was just an accident. The shepherd pressed his nose against the glass, fogging the pain as if demanding to be let inside. The stranger. By morning, the rain had thinned to mist. Sheriff Ellery returned to the hospital, half expecting the woman would have slipped away in the night. Instead, he found her awake, staring out the window at the shepherd sitting faithfully beneath it. She looked late 20s, skin pale but drawn tight with wiry strength. Her hair, once blonde, was matted with mud and dried blood. Morning, Ellery said gently. She turned her head slowly, as if it cost her. Her eyes were startling, gray, haunted. Name's Sheriff Ellery. Folks call me Grant. You've been through hell. I need to know who you are. She studied him, gauging trust. Eliza, she said finally. Her voice was gravel. Eliza Klein. You from around here? A pause. No. He pulled up a chair. Eliza, how'd you end up in Ash Hollow? And what the hell happened at Redwood? Her throat worked. She glanced at the window, at the shepherd waiting below. They'll come if I talk. Who? Her eyes filled, not with tears, but a deep, unspeakable dread. The ones in the dark. Ellery felt a cold weight settle in his chest. She wasn't delirious. She was terrified. Listen, he said. You're safe now. You got me. The hospital staff, half a dozen deputies who bleed before they let harm touch you. Whatever happened out there, we'll handle it. Her lips parted. For a moment, it seemed she might finally spill everything. Instead, she whispered, You don't understand. No one handles them. Back at Redwood. The next day, Ellery drove to Redwood with Deputy Mark Doyle, a younger cop with more attitude than experience. Doyle was chewing sunflower seeds, spitting shells into a paper cup, masking his unease with bravado. Sheriff, you believe her? Some woman shows up carried on a dog's back, talks about shadows in the woods. Hell, sounds like a campfire story. Stories don't break ribs and leave puncture wounds, Ellery muttered. The entrance to Redwood was chained, signs half-rotted. Keep out, contaminated site. They cut through anyway. The camp spread across a clearing, skeletal cabins sagging under moss. The sawmill nothing but blackened beams. Silence pressed in, broken only by the creak of trees. Doyle whistled low. Looks like hell's front porch. Ellery scanned the ground. The rain had softened the dirt, but not enough to erase the tracks. Boot prints, several pairs. Drag marks. And something else, smaller, deliberate. Paw prints. The shepherd's. He crouched. The trail ran deep into the camp, toward the collapsed mill. Sheriff, Doyle called softly. You better see this. Ellery joined him. Doyle was pointing at the mill wall. Charred black. Words were carved into it, rough and jagged, like someone had gouged them with a knife. Redwood lives. Ellery's skin prickled. Jesus. Doyle muttered, What the hell does that mean? Ellery didn't answer, because in that moment, he noticed something else, rustling, too heavy for wind. A shadow moved between the cabins. Someone's here, Ellery whispered. They drew their guns. The silence broke. Footsteps scattering, a door slamming. Doyle sprinted toward it. Ellery followed, boots splashing through mud. The cabin door banged shut. Inside, the sound of something dragging. A chair knocked over. Ellery shoved it open. The room was empty, but on the floor, burned into the wood, was the same jagged phrase, Redwood lives. And from the corner of the room came a sound that froze them both, low, guttural growling. The shepherd was there, standing in the doorway they hadn't noticed, lips peeled back, eyes locked on something behind the wall. Something neither man could yet see. Eliza's warning. Back at the hospital that night, Eliza woke screaming. Kara and the nurses rushed in, but she wouldn't calm until she saw Ellery. They know, she gasped, clutching his wrist. They know I made it out. They'll come. You don't understand. You can't stop them. Not the way you think. Ellery gripped her hand. Who's coming, Eliza? Who? She swallowed hard, then whispered, The men who never left Redwood, the ones who were supposed to die in the fire. Ellery stared at her, heart pounding. The fire had killed 12 men, or so the records claimed. But if even some had survived, hidden all these years, why would they be after you? Her face twisted. Because I found out what they've been doing. And if the country knew, she broke off, trembling. They'd burn the whole place to the ground. Her grip tightened painfully. Grant, promise me. Don't trust everyone in your circle. Some of them already belong to Redwood. The words hit like ice water. Ellery wanted to ask more, but then the lights flickered. For a split second, the hospital sank into darkness. Somewhere down the hall, glass shattered. The shepherd lifted its head outside the window and barked once, sharp and warning. When the light steadied, Ellery wasn't sure what chilled him more, the broken glass or Eliza's expression, because she wasn't surprised. She looked like she'd been waiting for it. The hospital hallways smelled of bleach and iron when Sheriff Ellery drew his gun. The overhead fluorescents buzzed back to life after the flicker, but the silence was wrong. Too heavy, broken only by the far-off beep of a heart monitor. Stay here, he told Eliza. But she shook her head, clutching the sheets. You don't get it, Sheriff. If they're here, walls won't stop them. Locks won't stop them. Then let the dog in. Ellery cracked a window, and the shepherd vaulted through with surprising grace for an animal half-starved, landing beside the bed like a soldier reporting for duty. It fixed its gaze on the hallway, ears twitching. Good, Ellery muttered. Then I know she's got backup. He stepped out into the corridor, boots squeaking against a wax tile. Shards of glass glittered beneath an exit sign at the far end. He radioed Doyle, who was posted at the station. No answer. Just static. Ellery's gut sank. The interruption. By morning, the hospital's generator had shorted, leaving parts of the building dark. State troopers were called in to secure the perimeter, but Ellery couldn't shake the weight of Eliza's words. Some of them already belonged to Redwood. He needed Doyle, needed to look him in the eye. Back at the station, Doyle was slouched in his chair, boots on the desk, cup of coffee steaming. You dropped your radio last night? Ellery asked. Doyle raised an eyebrow. Didn't hear it. What's got you wound tight? Ellery studied him. No visible guilt. No slip in tone. Maybe he was overthinking. We had a break-in at the hospital, Ellery said. Whoever they were, they're not scared of cops. Doyle whistled. And you think it's tied to this Redwood crap she's talking about? Ellery hesitated. I think it's more than crap. Someone carved words into those walls. Words people aren't supposed to know. And she's not just scared, she's hunted. Doyle leaned forward. Sheriff, maybe she's feeding you a story. Could be she got mixed up with the wrong crowd. Maybe she's using you for protection. Ellery wanted to agree, wanted to believe it. But then he remembered her face when the lights flickered. Not surprised, only resigned. She knows something, Ellery said flatly. The tapes. 2 days later, Eliza asked for a recorder. They won't let me talk to reporters, she told Ellery. But if I die before this gets out, you need proof. She spoke for 3 hours straight, voice hoarse, words tumbling like she'd held them in for too long. Ellery sat there listening, his pen frozen over the notepad. She described men from Redwood, loggers, drifters, ex-cons, who should have burned the fire 20 years ago. But they hadn't. They'd gone underground, using the abandoned camp as cover. Over time, they grew into something else. Mercenaries, smugglers, killers for hire. And then she said the thing that made Ellery's stomach flip. They're working with someone inside law enforcement. That's how they've lasted this long. They move people, weapons, even children. Redwood isn't just a ghost town. It's a vein that bleeds into the nation. Ellery switched off the recorder, jaw tight. Names. I need names. Eliza's eyes brimmed with exhaustion. I only know one for certain. Marcus Venn. He was the foreman at Redwood before the fire. Everyone thought he died. He didn't. He runs them. The name hit Ellery like a hammer. He remembered Marcus Venn, big, brutal, mean-eyed. He'd been arrested twice in the 80s for assault, but charges never stuck. Folks whispered he had friends in high places. You're saying he's alive, Ellery muttered. Alive, and he'll come for me, because I have proof. The proof. That night, Ellery sat on his porch with the recorder in his lap. Rain tapped against the tin roof. He replayed Eliza's words, her voice shaking but steady. If she was lying, it was one hell of a lie. If she wasn't... Ash Hollow was sitting on a powder keg. The shepherd padded up beside him, laying its scarred head on his boot. Ellery scratched behind its ear absently. Where the hell did you come from, boy? 47 miles. The dog closed its eyes, breathing deep, not just a stray, a survivor. Ellery poured whiskey into a chip glass. He'd buried men for less than this kind of secret. He didn't hear the footsteps until it was too late. Sheriff. Doyle stood at the edge of the porch, half in shadow. His voice was casual, but his hand was shoved too deep in his jacket pocket. You look tired, Doyle said. All this Redwood stuff eating at you. Ellery's thumb brushed the recorder. He forced a shrug. Part of the job. Part of the job, Doyle echoed, stepping closer. His boots creaked on the wood. Funny thing, you always told me, don't chase ghosts. But now you're chasing them harder than anyone. Ellery's stomach tightened. You got something you want to say, Deputy? Doyle smiled without warmth, just wondering whose side you're on. The shepherd lifted its head and growled. The betrayal. The confrontation broke the next morning. Ellery arrived at the hospital to find Kara furious. Nurses whispering in clusters. Eliza was gone. Transferred. Ellery asked sharply. No, Kara snapped. 2 men came in with badges. Claimed they were state investigators. Took her in a wheelchair. Paperwork's all forged. By the time we figured it out, they were gone. Ellery's blood iced over. Who let them in? Kara's lips thinned. Deputy Doyle signed them through. Ellery's world tilted. The recorder in his pocket felt like a live grenade. He drove to the station. Doyle wasn't there. His desk was stripped bare. No files, no badge, no personal effects. The phone on Ellery's desk rang. He picked it up. A man's voice, low and smooth. Sheriff Ellery, you've been busy. Ellery's grip tightened. Where's Eliza? Alive. For now. But you should stop looking. Redwood's been running longer than you've been wearing that badge, and it'll keep running after you're in the ground. Ellery swallowed hard. Who the hell is this? The line clicked dead. The shepherd barked once, sharp, startling him. When Ellery turned, the dog was staring at the door, hackles raised. For the first time in years, Ellery felt something he thought he'd left behind in a rock, long before he put on the badge. The creeping certainty that the war had found him again. The cabin. Ellery followed Doyle's trail out of town, into the back roads leading to Redwood. He found a cabin hidden in the pines, smoke curling from its chimney. The shepherd stiffened, hackles high. Inside, Doyle sat at a table, rifle across his knees. Eliza was tied to a chair, gagged, her eyes burning with fury. Ellery leveled his gun. Drop it. Doyle's smile was cold. Sheriff, you shouldn't have come. Untie her. Now. You don't get it, do you? Doyle leaned back, rifle steady. Redwood isn't some ghost story. It's survival. Men like Venn, men like me, we don't play by rules that were written to keep us broke and weak. We own the dark. We move what needs moving. And we answer to no one. That woman, he jerked his chin at Eliza. She's a liability. You hand her over, you walk away. I'll even let you live out your days pretending you never knew. Eliza shook her head violently, muffled protest through the gag. Ellery's chest burned. You were supposed to have my back, Doyle. I still do, Doyle said softly. This is me saving you. Because Redwood doesn't forgive. You stand against it, they'll bury you. Ellery's finger tightened on the trigger. Maybe, but I'll bury you first. For a moment, silence hung, thick and suffocating. Then Doyle made his mistake. He shifted his eyes to Eliza, just for a second. The shepherd lunged. Teeth sank into Doyle's arm, dragging the rifle down as it fired wild. Splinters exploded from the cabin wall. Ellery shot once, clean. Doyle crumpled, blood soaking the wood floor. The shepherd released him and padded back to Eliza, tail low, whining softly as if apologizing for the violence. Ellery cut her ropes. She clutched his hand, trembling. You don't understand, she whispered hoarsely. Doyle was just one piece. There are more. Redwood runs deep. You can't fight them alone. Ellery glanced at Doyle's lifeless body, then at the dog's scarred muzzle. Then it's not me fighting them, he said. It's us. The shadow of Venn. They left the cabin at dawn, mist curling off the ground. Ellery carried Doyle's badge in his pocket, the weight of betrayal heavy against his chest. Eliza sat in the passenger seat, clutching a blanket around her shoulders. The shepherd lay across the back seat, eyes half shut but alert. Where do we go now? Eliza asked. Ellery kept his eyes on the road. Redwood. Her breath caught. You can't. Not yet. Why not? Because you don't know what Venn is capable of. Ellery glanced at her. Then tell me. She swallowed hard. Marcus Venn isn't just alive. He's building something. Something bigger than Redwood. If the country finds out, her voice faltered, it won't just shake this town. It'll shake the nation. The shepherd lifted its head, ears pricking, as if it understood the storm waiting ahead. Ellery gripped the wheel tighter, the first light of morning bleeding through the trees. Whatever waited in Redwood, he knew one thing. The war had already started. The forest grew thicker as Sheriff Ellery's truck groaned up the gravel road, fog curling low across the trees. Eliza sat rigid in the passenger seat, her hands twisted in the blanket, like she was bracing against a storm only she could feel. The shepherd paced in the back, nails clicking on the metal floorboard. "You sure about this?" Ellery asked, eyes on the winding road. Eliza didn't answer right away. Her lips parted slowly, like words had to be pried loose. "The fire was a cover, Sheriff. Everyone thought Redwood died that night, but Venn made sure only the weak burned. He took the strong. He rebuilt." Ellery's jaw tightened. "And you?" Her gaze stayed fixed out the window. "I was supposed to be a witness. I saw too much. I ran." He doesn't forgive runners. Ellery drummed his fingers against the wheel. "Then we finish this." Eliza turned toward him, her eyes haunted. "You don't finish Redwood. It finishes you." The mill. By nightfall, they reached the ruins of the sawmill. Ash Hollow's folk stories painted Redwood as nothing more than charred beams and broken cabins. But what Ellery saw made his blood run cold. Light, not campfires, but flood lamps rigged to generators. Cabins once collapsing, now patched with fresh timber. Trucks parked in neat rows, engines still warm. Men in heavy coats moved between buildings with purpose. Not ghosts, but soldiers. Eliza's breath caught. He's expanding. Ellery killed the headlights. They sat in darkness, watching the hidden town pulse with life it shouldn't have. The shepherd growled low, ears pinned. Ellery whispered, "How many?" "Dozens." Eliza said, "But it's not the numbers that matter. It's what they're moving." "Which is?" She shook her head. "You'll see soon enough. The warehouse." They crept down the slope on foot, the shepherd ghosting ahead, silent despite its size. At the edge of the clearing stood a warehouse, newer than the rest, its metal sides gleaming under the lamps. Men carried crates inside, stamping out cigarettes as they went. Ellery pressed his back against the wall, heart hammering. Through a crack in the boards, he saw what was inside. Rows of cages. Not animals. People. Women, children, eyes hollow, bodies bruised. A smuggler's cache, but larger, more organized, more ruthless than anything Ellery had seen in war zones overseas. He stumbled back, bile in his throat. Christ almighty! Eliza clutched his arm. "This is what I tried to expose. They don't just run drugs or guns. They run people. And no one stops them because the rot runs deep, federal, state, even local." Ellery felt the betrayal of Doyle all over again, but heavier now, a weight threatening to crush his chest. "They're ghosts," Eliza whispered. "And ghosts don't fear laws." Marcus Venn. The air shifted. Ellery felt it before he saw him. A man stepping from the mill's shadows, tall, shoulders broad despite age, his face lined but sharp, eyes like iron under floodlight. Marcus Venn, the foreman of Redwood, the man who wasn't supposed to exist. He lit a cigar, the ember glowing red in the mist. "I wonder when you'd come, Sheriff." His voice carried like gravel dragged across steel. Eliza froze beside Ellery, breath ragged. "You've been poking your nose where it doesn't belong." Venn said, "But you're predictable. Always were. That's why Doyle came to me. Told me everything. Poor boy thought he could walk both sides. Shame you forced my hand." Ellery's grip tightened on his gun. "You're trafficking people through my county. You think I'll just stand by?" Venn laughed softly. "County? Sheriff, this isn't your county anymore. It's mine. Always has been. Redwood didn't die. It adapted, and now it feeds a machine bigger than either of us." He took a drag, exhaled smoke. "Walk away. Take your dog. Take the girl. Forget what you saw." Or he glanced toward the warehouse, where men shifted rifles in their hands. "You die here." Ellery leveled his gun. "Not walking." Venn's smile widened. "Then you'll bleed like the rest." Fire in the pines. Chaos erupted. Floodlights swung. Rifles cracked. Ellery dragged Eliza behind a stack of crates as bullets splintered wood. The shepherd lunged into the fray, snarling, tearing a man down by the throat. "Run!" Ellery shouted, shoving Eliza toward the treeline. He fired shot after shot, dropping one, two, but more poured from the cabins. Eliza stumbled, fell, but the shepherd circled back, pressing against her, urging her forward. Together, they vanished into the woods. Ellery held the line until his clip ran dry. He dove into the trees, branches whipping his face. Men shouted behind him, flashlights slicing the dark. They ran until their lungs burned, until the sound of pursuit thinned into silence. Finally, they collapsed in a hollow beneath an outcrop of rock. Eliza pressed a trembling hand to his arm. "You should have left me." Ellery's chest heaved. "That's not how I'm built." The shepherd licked blood from his sleeve, whining low. Ellery scratched its head, his hand shaking. "Good boy. You don't quit, do you?" The proof. By dawn, they reached Ellery's cabin deep in the woods. Eliza collapsed on the couch, eyes closing. The shepherd curled at her feet. Ellery poured coffee with hands that barely steadied. He placed the recorder on the table. "This is our weapon now. We get this to the press, to the state attorney. Hell, even the internet, once people hear it." "They'll kill us first," Eliza murmured, eyes half shut. "Maybe." He sat across from her, voice heavy but certain. "But they can't kill the truth once it's out." Silence hung, broken only by the crackle of the wood stove. Then came the sound of tires on gravel. Ellery froze. Through the window, he saw headlights cutting through the trees. More than one vehicle. Eliza's eyes snapped open. "They found us." The last stand. The truck stopped outside. Men spilled into the clearing, rifles raised. Ven's voice boomed. "Sheriff, you can't hide her forever. Give her up, and maybe I'll leave your corpse whole." Ellery chambered his last rounds, glanced at Eliza. "Back door. Take the recorder. Run." She shook her head fiercely. "I'm not leaving you." "Yes, you are." His voice was steel. "You're the one who tells the world. That's how we win." The shepherd barked once, sharp, as if agreeing. Ellery pushed Eliza toward the door, shoved the recorder into her hands. "Go." She hesitated, tears streaking her dirt-caked face. Then she ran, the dog bounding at her side. Ellery turned back to the front door, stepped into the clearing with his rifle. The men opened fire. The aftermath. 2 days later, federal agents swarmed Redwood. The world had already seen the recordings. Eliza had gotten them out, the files spreading like wildfire online. Headlines screamed about secret camps, trafficking networks, corruption. Sheriff Grant Ellery was found in the clearing outside his cabin, body riddled with bullets, rifle empty. But he hadn't gone down easy. 6 men lay dead around him. The shepherd sat beside him, unmoving, guarding his body until the agents pried it away. Its paws were bleeding again, but its eyes were clear, resolute. Eliza watched from the trees. Hands trembling around the blanket she still carried. She didn't cry. She couldn't. Instead, she placed a hand on the shepherd's scarred head. "You kept me alive," she whispered. "Both of you." The dog leaned against her leg, warm and solid, as the noise of helicopters and shouting men filled the valley. Redwood was exposed. Ven had vanished into the night, a shadow slipping through the cracks. But his empire was crumbling under the weight of daylight. The nation was shaken. The town of Ash Hollow would never be the same. And in the quiet moments between sirens, Eliza swore she could still hear Ellery's voice, gruff, steady, unyielding, telling her to keep going. Resolution. Weeks later, Eliza stood at Ellery's grave. The stone was simple, etched with only his name, dates, and a single line. He stood when others bowed. The shepherd lay at her feet, watching the horizon. Eliza touched the stone, her voice barely a whisper. "You were right. The truth's out now, but it cost you everything." The wind stirred the pines, soft and mournful. She turned to leave, the dog following close. The world was darker now, but also more awake. Redwood wasn't finished. She knew that. Shadows never die in a single fire. But she carried the story. She carried the proof. And she carried a memory of a sheriff who chose to stand and a dog who carried her 47 miles through hell. Quietly, without fanfare, they walked on.